During procedure, the Troika for Colombia are the representatives of Nigeria. The recommendation section will be adopted today, and the full report, including the summary section, will be circulated on Moodle tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. We will now proceed with the next review. Once the representative of the delegation of France is ready, please inform us by raising your flag. Thank you. We will now proceed with the review of France. I now have the honor to give the floor to Ms. Francesca Pizzoni, Minister of the Europe and Foreign Affairs. I should recall that the delegation of France has a maximum of 15 minutes to deliver the national report. Ms. Pizzoni, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates. It is an honor and a pleasure to attend this cycle of the Universal Periodic Review as representative of France. Our state strongly believes in new mechanisms and has always focused on the protection of human rights and continues to make efforts in this area. The national report shows several actions undertaken by the government in different contexts, starting with combating discrimination. It is still an important issue in today's society. Therefore, the government is committed to the purpose of eradicating it, being it a form of racial discrimination, xenophobia, or anti-Semitism. Indeed, France is a party to the International Convention on all forms of racial discrimination. In particular, at the Council of Ministers, the government adopted a national plan of action against racism and anti-Semitism, to fight discrimination and to take actions also to fight hate on the internet, educate against prejudices and stereotypes, and better receive victims. Continuing the program of action presented in 2012, a plan against anti-LGBT hatred and discrimination was adopted to combat in a more effective way all discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. By financing local and national associations for awareness raising and training aimed at improving the response of the criminal justice system and specific victim support. France is deploying its commitment in a national action plan for the equality of rights against hate and anti-LGBT+ discrimination. Furthermore, the prohibition of practices aimed at modifying a person's sexual orientation or gender identity is approved by the law number 2022-92 of the 31st of January 2022. Concerning employment, France has developed the third international strategy for gender equality, a tool designed to coordinate France's efforts to improve the situation of women around the world. Together with the introduction of the Equality in the Workplace Index, an attempt to reduce gender inequality in enterprises. Well, the High Council for Equality between Women and Men in women's rights, the fight against sexism and gender violence, and professional equality. France is also working on inclusive education. Facilitating the formation of a new generation is crucial for the development of the whole country. Therefore, we have integrated the personalized schooling projects for children with disabilities, thanks to the Commission on the Rights and Autonomy of Persons with Disabilities. As for sport, the National Advisory Commission on Human Rights has adopted a series of measures concerning racism and discrimination in sports. In order to put an end to social inequality in its economic and social means, the decree number 2020-42 of January the 24th, 2020 established the commissioners for the fight against poverty. The text defines poverty commissioners' roles and their mission. The above-mentioned social inequalities are among the issues emphasized by the pandemic situation. Another challenge France is still facing is the prevention of human trafficking, connected to the spreading need of people to migrate. Worldwide emergency has made it difficult to manage migrants, especially out of borders. Nevertheless, France has cooperated in missions with Italy and Britain to strengthen and secure borders in order to register immigrants for what are the capabilities of France in assisting them, and consequently to avoid the illegal practice of human trafficking. As for the refugees, their integration into our society was made more difficult due to the pandemic. But this year, the program Accompagnement Global et Individualisé des Réfugiés for employment and allocation of refugees was implemented. The generic purpose is to favor the relations between the entering social groups and the local society. Civil society ought to be a significant partner for the integration process. A particular mention for the integration of the Roma. The fight against the specific form of racism is included in the 2021-2025 Interministerial Plan in the fight against racism, which aims to take strong measures against anti-Gypsyism and to integrate prevention programs and policies against racism in the education sector. Additionally, the fight against terrorism has called for other measures to be undertaken in order to protect the victims of acts of terrorism who cannot claim compensation, although it is a small chance of relief. Another guarantee was introduced in the Code of Criminal Procedure through the law number 2021-403 of the 8th of April 2021. It is directed towards the detainees and their right to appeal to the judicial judge if they consider to be in undignified conditions. In respect of fellow overseas citizens, being our cooperation necessary to enhance our relations, several measures have been undertaken by the government relating sanitation service, the protection and promotion of regional languages, social security, and public health. Furthermore, protecting children and their rights is a vital priority to the state. So in order to fulfill their needs, in January 2019, the Secretary of State for Childhood Protection was named with the task of coordinating with the interministerial delegation for the prevention and fight against children and youth poverty. While the Pact of l'Enfance was adopted with the purpose of fighting against all forms of violence on children. Due to pandemic emergencies, after March 2020, it has been activated again for the 119 Allons Face Mengère hotline. Finally, the law of the 7th of February 2022 related to the protection of children completes the national strategy of prevention and protection of children. It promotes the aide sociale à l'enfance, which is the systematic search for close relatives of orphan children. Regarding the advanced question posed by Nigeria, Plans clarifies that the above mentioned aide sociale à l'enfance is a tool employed also for the assistance of unaccompanied children refugees. Additionally, about France's contribution towards official development assistance in August 2021, France adopted the programming law for solidarity-based development and the fight against global inequalities. France committed to a 0.7% GNI target by 2025. Last, to answer the issue related to immigration and asylum raised by Cameroon, in the framework of the European Union, France is a party to the new Pact on Migration and Asylum. It offers a new effective and safe approach addressed to the integration of migrants, whose rights are, however, guaranteed by the French Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we will start with an interactive dialogue. Before I give the floor to the delegations for questions and comments, I would like to remind you that the speaking time is 1 minute and 30 seconds for each reviewing state. Please be reminded that the use of the word recommend or recommendation is necessary for your remarks to be included in the recommendation section of the report. Our list of speakers follows the alphabetical order, so I start by giving the floor to the delegation of Azerbaijan. You may now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Azerbaijan welcomes the delegation of France at the UPR working group and thanks for the presentation in its national report. Azerbaijan appreciates the efforts of the delegation of France to implement recommendations from the previous review cycle. Azerbaijan wishes to make the following recommendations to the delegation of France. First, as previously recommended, Azerbaijan recommends to the delegation of France to sign or ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all migrant workers and members of their families. Second, Azerbaijan recommends to the delegation of France to continue to implement the recommendations of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, including those related to the situation of the Roma and other minorities. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Cameroon.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates and distinguished representatives. At Cameroon, we welcome the French delegation, and we would like to thank them for their presentation and further work on improving the human rights situation in France. However, minority rights, more specifically refugee rights, have been violated in France, especially in the last years. With the cases about this issue to our knowledge, we would like to raise our concern about the regulation of police forces and rights of refugees, given the French police and security forces have been preventing the rightful entrance and application of asylum seekers and other refugees into the country. We are concerned about the measures France is taking to combat these issues, and we recommend French officials to establish a system restricting and controlling police force, especially in borders, to prevent discrimination and unlock laws against refugees.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I give the floor to the delegation of Canada.
Distinguished Madam President, fellow delegates, the delegation of Canada welcomes the state of France and its representatives. And thanks for the presentation of its national report. Canada congratulates France for the national mechanisms created for the prevention of protection of human rights in all of the country. In face of this, Canada would like to recommend the state of France to ensure and invest on food system sustainability because of the importance of local small farms communities, which supply the major part of the food in the world and enforce international trade corporations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The delegation of France may now comment. Your Excellency, Ms. Pedone, if you want to answer the previous speakers or add any comments, you have the floor, and your speaking time is 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam President, and fellow gentlemen for your recommendations in the work. We'd like to comment about the migrant situation and the racial issue raised by the delegates of Azerbaijan by saying that Article 2 of the Constitution is protecting all citizens of French Republic. So as for French citizens, the rights of migrants and also concerning racial discrimination are protected by the internal law and of course also by the European law. As for migrants, also the refugees, of course, are part of this protection. And while for the food sustainability issue raised by the delegation of Canada, we will consider that to as a measure to implement by our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your comments. Now we will continue with the list of speakers. I remind the delegates that the speaking time is 1 minute and 30 seconds. Delegation of Colombia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished members of the Secretariat, fellow delegates. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia welcomes the delegation of France and congratulates it for presenting its thorough national report. In addition, the Republic of Colombia would like to congratulate France for the measures that have been undertaken in respect to your overseas citizens. But nonetheless, the Republic of Colombia would like to propose the following recommendations to France. First, the effective implementation of the new law 2021-513 that dates on 29 April 2021 to renew the governance of the public drinking water and sanitation service in Guadalupe in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goal number 6, focused on the need to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. In addition, given the high number of migrants with whom France is confronted yearly, among those also Colombian nationals, Colombia recommends France to revisit its previous decision regarding the ratification of the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of All Migrant Workers and Members of their Families, as it was also mentioned by the delegation of Azerbaijan, as we believe that this would complement your existing legislation and ensure a further protection of the rights of the migrant workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I now give the floor to the delegation of Nigeria. Your Excellency, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam President. Nigeria welcomes the distinguished delegation of France to this session. Thank you for the comprehensive presentation of the national report. Nigeria appreciates the promotion of human rights by France, specifically France's continued fight against all forms of racism on the domestic and on the global stage. Nonetheless, Nigeria is concerned with discriminatory practices that, due to xenophobia, negatively affect migrant workers. Therefore, Nigeria recommends France to create more prudent legislation towards the protection of migrant workers. We wish France a successful UPR. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. To the delegation of France, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to add any comments and to make final remarks. Your Excellency, Ms. Vedane, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and fellow delegates of Nigeria. About the issue of migrants, we had already commented. So I wanted to address this answer to the to Colombian delegates regarding the Guadalupe situation. There is a law number 2021-513 of the 29th of April 2021, renewing the governance of the public drinking water and sanitation service in Guadeloupe, which created the Syndicam de Gestion de l'eau et de l'assainissement de Guadeloupe with the purpose of ensuring the technical and financial management of public services of water and sanitation, and invest on the good functioning and modernization of resources of water. So France is implementing measures in the Guadeloupe regarding the issue of water and sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you to the delegation of France for your final remarks. Thank you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to especially thank the delegation of France for their presentation of their national report, the engagement, and the interactive dialogue. The report of review will be prepared by the members of the assigned Troika. According to this year's procedure, the Troika for France are the representatives of Canada. The recommendation section will be adopted today, and the full report, including the summary section, will be circulated on Moodle tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. We will now proceed with the next review. Once the representative of the delegation of Nigeria is ready, please inform us by raising your flag. Thank you. We will now proceed with the review of Nigeria. I now have the honor to give the floor to Her Excellency Eugenia Molchanova, Permanent Representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, you have a maximum of 15 minutes to deliver your national report. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, Vice President, Secretariat, distinguished representatives from fellow young member states. I am Ambassador Eugenia Molchanova. I'm honored to be here today as a representative of Nigeria's delegation to the 5th cycle of the Universal Periodic Review of the United Nations Human Rights Council and to present our national report. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the Universal Periodic Review for the hospitality and support organization shown to us at this important meeting. I wish to use this opportunity to commend you, Madam President, for the excellent manner in which you have conducted the work of the Council and to thank the various delegations present here today for participating in this important process. The federal government of Nigeria implemented an inclusive internal ministerial national committee on Universal Periodic Review, which has taken a multi-tiered and cooperative approach in the creation of the report. It is made up of representatives of the government, academia, and civil society. Background reports and submissions from ministries, departments, and agencies were used as resources in the construction of this project. With great pleasure, I want to report that important improvements have been made in the fight for human rights in our country. Nigeria is trying to fully contribute to the improvement of the situation in the country. For this, we take part in the work and activities of the Council, support the Commission on Human Rights, adhere the official human rights documents, and try to fulfill obligations both at the national and regional levels. Now, I would like to introduce you to some improvements that have been made since the last cycle of periodic review in 2018. The Federal Republic of Nigeria has implemented several measures to fight against corruption. And an interinstitutional monitoring and evaluation committee in the framework of Nigeria's national anti-corruption strategy was launched. There was successful financing of an anti-corruption program for robust civil society leadership, especially engaging women, young people, and persons with disabilities.
Nigeria, as a participant of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, stands for gender equality and makes the main goal to eliminate all harmful practices, such as child, early and forced marriage, and female genital mutilation. An important step has been made. In 2019, Nigerian government and the World Health Organization harmonized efforts to stop the medicalization of female genital mutilation. National Action Plan 2022-2026 to strengthen the capacity of the human rights institutions was established. It includes an audit of human rights situation, identifying the areas that need to be promoted, collaboration and support by civil society organizations, the international community and development partners. In 2022, the Nigeria Electoral Act bill has been passed into law, which assists the Electoral Offensive Commission to take action against electoral offenders. Efforts have been made to introduce new training for the Nigeria Police Force and other agencies of law enforcement to make them aware of human rights issues with the goals of emphasizing universal human rights. Nigeria makes a lot of efforts for child rights have been carried out entirely according to Nigerian constitution, which guarantees all Nigerians, including children, fundamental rights. The government has implemented the following protection for children. In 2022, the State Child Rights Bill was passed by the State House of Assembly, which called for the state government to issue and distribute sufficient resources and implement the law to grant children the right interest in it. The launch of a campaign to end child marriage in Nigeria and a national strategy to end child marriage in Nigeria in 2017-2021. Nigeria has taken steps aimed at developing the health sector. Nigeria supports the right to health as a part of the UN Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development Goals. Our national health policy aims at strengthening the national health system in order to provide effective, efficient, quality, accessible, and affordable health services, as well as adequate primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare services for Nigerians. The second National Strategic Health Development Plan 2018-2022 is anchored on the new National Health Policy 2016, which was developed taking into consideration Nigeria's aspiration to attain universal health coverage for all Nigerians. Nigeria stepped up action to prevent violence and discrimination against women. In 2020, the government set up a national tool for gender-based data management, which serves as a consolidated database to record and assess the occurrence of gender-based violence against females, and also develop gender-based policy guidelines in emergency response. Nigeria put in place necessary steps to prevent extrajudicial killings. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which was allegedly involved in the highest number of extrajudicial killings, was disbanded in October 2020. The Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the Police Service Commission, and the Nigerian Police Force are implementing recommendations and decisions of the Independent Investigation Panel on Human Rights violations by the defunct SARS and other units of the Nigerian police. Nigeria is strengthening measures aimed at improving security in the country. In 2022, the Nigerian government has tasked the military to do more in improving civil-military relations. The National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons has so far been very effective in using technology to combat trafficking and supporting anti-trafficking work, such as aiding investigation and enhancing prosecution, and scaling awareness campaigns. The Nigerian government embarked on a holistic reform of its criminal justice system. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act responded to human rights concerns about the situation of persons in detention. The Nigerian Prisons and Correctional Service Bill was passed into law in 2019 in order to empower the rejection of additional inmates when the prison is filled to capacity. Nigeria also created a law in 2020 called the Nigeria Police Force Establishment Act, which came into force in 2020. Its general objective is to provide an effective police service that's based on principles of accountability and transparency, protection of human rights, and partnership with other security agencies. Nigeria is in the process of promoting the Migrant Workers Convention. Its national policy on labor and employment has been revised. The International Labour Organization 2021 supported the Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment to convene a two-day stakeholders workshop to validate the revised national policy on labour and migration. In 2018, the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act was signed. The Act provides for the full inclusion of persons with disabilities into Nigerian society and establishes the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities and furthermore vests the Commission with the responsibility for their education, healthcare, social, economic, and civil rights. Additionally, the Act puts sanction on people who contravene it. The Commission 2021 drafted a National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights. The United Nations Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights give a framework for how government and business protect human rights, including what mechanisms are chosen to reduce and mitigate business-related violations. This action plan seeks to engage these principles in practical, real, and specific terms. As highlighted in a report of National Human Rights Commission of the 18th December 2020, human rights monitoring was done across the states of Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe in April, May, and June 2020. The report contains information on the population of these three areas, a summary of human rights issues, community-based interventions, and visits to communities and facilities across the territory of the state. The thematic areas covered by this report include the rights of women, rights of the child, civil and political rights, vulnerable groups, access to justice, and economic, social, and cultural rights. We have received a number of advanced questions and requests for qualification. France expressed its concerns about the implementation of the moratorium on the death penalty. We assume the moratorium on the death penalty and it has not been carried out since 2016. Canada and France as well are concerned that the prohibition of female genital mutilation within the Violence Against Persons Act has not been implemented and some regions still have this practice. Also, Colombia expressed interest in measures that were used to prevent the disruption of the abolition of the PGM during the COVID-19 pandemic. The government of Nigeria has made the main goal to stop PGM. In 2021, Cross River State passed a law to ban the practice. We are moving toward banning the practice nationwide. Moreover, Nigeria is directing efforts to completely stop the medicalization of this practice in cooperation with the World Health Organization. Nigeria provided training to community workers, especially women, in the prevention of COVID-19 and female genital mutilation. As a participant in the UNFPA UNICEF joint program on the elimination of female genital mutilation, Nigeria supported the training of staff of the National Human Rights Commission on Human Rights Framework for addressing PGM in November 2020. The number of public declarations of PGM abandoned increased from 135 to 501 between 2019 and 2020. Colombia is interested in measures that have been implemented to increase security to protect citizens from Boko Haram. In 2017, military gains and improved security in parts of northeastern Nigeria have spurred a greater focus on conflict stabilization measures. At the international level, key donors set up the Oslo Consultative Group of the Prevention and Stabilization in the Lake Chad region to coordinate their response activities. The Lake Chad Basin Commission and the African Union Commission have adopted a regional stabilization strategy which highlights short, medium, and long-term stabilization, resilience, and recovery needs. To the question of Cameron about the parameters by which the constitutional permission to use force in case of self-defense is determined, we will start with the fact that these parameters are also included in the Nigerian constitution. They include reasonable apprehension of death or grievous harm if it was necessary to use force at the time. The force used by the defendant must be proportional to the force used by immediately threatened against him and reasonable in the circumstance. Proportionality can be determined by the nature of the weapon used in retaliation and the obvious disparity in the relative physical strength of the parties. Concerning the prevention of the loss of life and ensuring peaceful protest and assembly under Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, every person is entitled to assemble freely and associate with other persons. Before and during any use of force by private security personnel or reasonable precautionary steps to protect life and prevent executive violence must be taken, including the provision of appropriate equipment and training, the prescription in appropriate weapons, and careful planning of individual operations. I have presented the national report which showed the desire of Nigeria to promote and protect the human rights of Nigerians. We understand the challenges still remain, but assure the international community of our determination to meet these challenges in order to further improve the human rights situation in our country in a transparent, verified, and sustainable manner. In conclusion, allow me to reaffirm the wish of my delegation to have a constructive dialogue and to receive further comments, questions, and recommendations from the delegations here present. Thank you.
Now we will start with the interactive dialogue. Before I give the floor to the delegations for questions and comments, I would like to remind you that the speaking time will be 1 minute and 30 seconds for each review state. Please be reminded that the use of the word recommend or recommendation is necessary for your remarks to be included in the recommendation section of the report. Our list of speakers follows the alphabetical order. I start by giving the floor to the delegation of Azerbaijan. You may now declare.
Thank you, Madam President. Azerbaijan welcomes the delegation of Nigeria at the UPR working group and thanks it for the presentation of its national report. Azerbaijan commends the delegation of Nigeria for establishing the National Action Plan 2022-2026 to help realize the advancement of human rights. Azerbaijan wishes to make the following recommendations to the delegation of Nigeria. First, Azerbaijan recommends to the delegation Nigeria to continue to adopt measures to promote the Migrant Workers Convention. Second, Azerbaijan recommends to the delegation Nigeria to take result-oriented measures to eliminate religious intolerance and hatred. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I give the floor to the delegation of Cameroon.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates and distinguished representatives. As the delegation of Cameroon, we welcome Nigerian delegation and we would like to thank them for their presentation and work on improving the human rights situation and providing not only national but also regional stability as our neighboring state. According to the National Legal Framework, Nigerian citizens have the constitutional right to the use of force. Our concern is that whether there are any parameters has the use of force been defined within or constrained to in order to prevent the loss of life and ensure peaceful protest and assembly. In addition, we are well aware that the Nigerian government took a huge steps towards human rights and prevention of violence by disbanding the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, abbreviated as SARS, responsible for numerous extrajudicial killings in the country after protests on both local and national level. However, to our knowledge, the trial process of the protesters is controversial, since the arrested protesters were not released, and the trial process of violators is not conducted transparently. We recommend the Nigerian government to release the protesters and conduct a more transparent trial of the arrested task force. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I give the floor to the delegation of Canada. You have the floor.
Thank you, distinguished Madam President, fellow delegates. The delegation of Canada welcomes the state of Nigeria and its representatives. The state of Canada would like to ask Nigeria what measures will be taken to clarify the status of the death penalty in the country, as it reminds, asserted, and highlights the urgent need to review all death row convictions. And Canada recommends Nigeria to make an amendment in its constitution to modify section 29 4B, as it provides an exception for child marriage. Furthermore, Canada recommends Nigeria to continue working towards the domestication of the 2015 Act in the Nigerian states that have not adopted it, as well as on the establishment of the sexual assault retrieval center in all Nigerian states to provide a proper response to victims of female genital mutilation and to reinforce and ensure the implementation of the law. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The delegation of Nigeria may now comment. Your Excellency, Ms. Montanova, if you want to answer the previous speakers or add any comments, you have the floor. Your speaking time is 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. Thank you all for your contribution to the review progress of Federal Republic of Nigeria and recommendations, questions, and remarks that were received. Concerning the problem of migrants, I would like to mention some documents that we implemented already. Government has initiated the process of domesticating the following international treaties ratified by Nigeria: the United Nations Convention relating to the status of refugees, the Protocol to the status of refugees, the OAU Convention governing the specific aspects of refugee problems in Africa. About anti-robbery squad, we already mentioned it in our national report, and we acknowledge the concern regarding the death penalty, and as a country, we are divided on the issue, but are undergoing discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your comments. Now we continue with our list of speakers. Delegation of Colombia, you have the floor. Thank you, Madam President, distinguished members of the Secretariat, fellow delegates. The delegation of the Republic of Colombia would like to welcome the delegation of Nigeria and thank it for the presentation of their national report, as well as for addressing our advanced region question. Colombia would like to congratulate Nigeria for the adoption in 2021 of the Child Rights Act 2003 in 25 states out of 36. However, we would like to express our concern as for its implementation thus far and recommend the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ensure that the Child Right Act 2003 is implemented nationally in all 36 states, as well as continue their efforts to effectively protect its rights. In addition, as was mentioned, the death penalty has been executed for the past decade, for the last time in the past decade, in 2016, as it was also mentioned by Your Excellency. And the delegation of Colombia recommends Nigeria to revisit the noted recommendations of the third UPR cycle regarding the abolition of death penalty, since we view it as the only definite solution to the eradication of death penalty rather than a practical moratorium. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. And now give the floor to the delegation of Francis.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow delegates. France welcomes the delegation of Nigeria and thanks it for the presentation of the national reports. France noticed that Nigeria is taking steps to improve the protection of children's rights. However, there are other important implementations to make. France recommends Nigeria to approve the amendment of Nigerian Constitution to modify Section 29 4B, which still provides an exception for child marriage. And we recommend to enact Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015 in the Nigerian state that had not adopted yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The delegation of Nigeria, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to make final remarks.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you once again, our appreciation and gratitude to the constituent members. We also thank you, Madam President, for guiding for the review and Secretariat for its support. Finally, we thank the Troika in advance for its assistance during the draft of the working group report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to especially thank the delegation of Nigeria for the presentation of their national report and their engagement in interactive dialogue. The report of this review will be prepared by the members of the assigned Troika. According to this year's procedure, the Troika members for Nigeria are the representatives of Azerbaijan. The recommendation section will be adopted today, and the full report, including the summary section, will be circulated on Moodle tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Now, I give the floor back to Madam Vice President Boudard to give further instructions on the drafting of the working group report. Madam Vice President, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam President. We will now proceed to the drafting of work group reports of the states reviewed in this afternoon session. The states that went under review this afternoon, Colombia, France, and Nigeria, and the states acting as Troika, Nigeria, Canada, and Azerbaijan, must stay in this room to draft the report. Delegates and participants not involved with the drafting of the Troika report must leave the room for a coffee break. The final version of the work group report shall be uploaded by the Troikals on Moodle. The adoption of the recommendation section of the working group report will begin at 4:30. We kindly ask you to avoid delays. Thank you. Madam President, you may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. This session is now closed. It is my privilege to welcome you to the adoption session where the 3 states under review from this afternoon session, including Colombia, France, and Nigeria, will have the opportunity to indicate their positions on the comments and the recommendations to them by other delegations. For the presentation of the Troika, we kindly ask the representative of the reviewing state operating as Troika to stand up, walk over to the podium, and wait for the timer to start to begin your presentation. We will now start with the adoption of the recommendation section of the report on the UPR of Colombia. The Troika for this report consists of the representatives of Nigeria. I would like to invite Her Excellency Matilde Masodi, Counselor of the High Commission of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who, on behalf of the Troika, will deliver the working group report outcome. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes. I give you the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam President, fellow delegates. It's a great honor to present on behalf of the Troika composed of Nigeria, draft report of the UPR Working Group of Colombia. During the interactive dialogue with Colombia, the states delivered their concerns, remarks, and recommendations. As a result, 8 recommendations were addressed to Colombia, among which 7 recommendations have been accepted and 1 has been noted. Azerbaijan handed in 2 recommendations. The first recommendation regarding the efforts to ensure the safe, dignified, and sustainable return of displaced people to their homes has been accepted. The second recommendation for Colombia to continue addressing the challenge related to discrimination against indigenous people, African Colombians, and other ethnic minorities has been accepted. Canada advanced 2 recommendations: the need to allocate appropriate funds in the national budget and maintain adequate institutions to put gender equality at the center of development and peace building efforts. Secondly, the need to take further action to improve the prevention of and response to threats, attacks, and killings of human rights defenders and social leaders through public policies, strengthening security, timely investigation, and addressing impunity. The 2 recommendations have been accepted. From France, the first recommendation on the ratification of the second optional protocol to the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights has been accepted. The second recommendation regarding the ratification of the optional protocol of the Convention Against Torture and other cruel and degrading treatment or punishment to ensure human rights defenders are not subject to any ill treatment and torture has been noted. Lastly, both recommendations from Nigeria, the first concerning the adoption of new legislation to increase the accountability of police and regulate excessive use of force, and the second one concerning the increase of efforts and resources towards the implementation of policies that are designated to protect human rights defenders, have been accepted by the delegation of Colombia. The Troika would like to thank the delegation of Colombia for their constructive and active engagement in the process and in the preparation of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your presentation and for your work as Troika. Before adopting the recommendation section, I would like to recall that any comments on the recommendation section need to be made from the floor now. Delegates who want to make comments may raise their placard. Are there any comments? I see none. I now propose that the working group adopts the recommendation section of the report of the UPR of Colombia. Are there any objections? I see none. The recommendation section of the report is adopted. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Kyra Alia Cabrera, Attorney General of the Republic of Colombia, for her final remarks. Your Excellency, you have 2 minutes. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. President of this session, representatives of Nigeria, the Troika, which supported Colombia throughout our review, and this cycle of Universal Periodic Review, delegates of states which are attending our adoption report the adoption of our report today, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first thank each of the delegations for their insightful interventions for safeguarding the rights of Colombians, and as well to your valuable recommendations and remarks. Our state has worked to build a culture of respect for human rights and peaceful coexistence. We know that reconciliation is a long path, but we are dedicated to this work. I would like to reiterate that the peace agreement paves a bright path for our nation in many aspects. We believe that the absence of violence or conflict is not the achievement of peace itself, but also in the recognition of a society based on equity and inclusivity. We acknowledge the difficulties of our country, the difficulties our country faces in its daily realities, and we believe in the room for improvement. As the adoption of the recommendations come to an end, Colombia is committed to the goals and missions of the UPR, making an environment where human rights are valued both nationally and internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, to you and your delegation for your participation in this review. We will proceed with the adoption of the recommendation section of the report on the review of France. Once the representative of Canada acting as Troika is ready, please signalize by raising your flag. Thank you. We will now proceed with the adoption of the recommendation section of the report on the review of France. Her Excellency Daniela Santoro, Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth, on behalf of the Troika, will deliver the working group report outcome. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes. I give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam President, and fellow delegates for allowing the States of Canada to speak as the Troika for the Republic of France. The Republic of France received in total 6 recommendations in total, sorry. The number of accepted recommendations are 4. The Republic of France accepted Azerbaijan's recommendation about continuing the implementation of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, including those related to the situation of the Roma and other minorities. The Republic of France accepted the recommendation of Colombia on the effective implementation of the law number 2021-513 of the April of 29th April 2021, renewing the governance of the public drinking water and sanitation service in Guadeloupe, in accordance with SDG 6, focused on the need to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. The Republic of France also accepted the recommendation made by Canada to ensure invest in food system sustainability because of the importance of local small farms communities, which supply the major part of the food in the world, and towards international trans cooperation. Moreover, the Republic of France accepted Nigeria's recommendation regarding the fulfillment of its stated goal of contributing 0.7% of its GNI toward official development assistance. The number of noted recommendations are 2. Regarding the 2 recommendations made by Colombia and Azerbaijan, the Republic of France noted to sign the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and Members of their Families. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your presentation and for your work as a Troika. Before adopting the recommendation section, I would like to recall that any comments on the recommendation section need to be made from the floor now. Delegates who want to raise their placard, delegates who want to make comments and raise their placard now, are there any comments? Delegation of Azerbaijan, you have 1 minute. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Azerbaijan would like to ask the delegation of France why it did not accept Azerbaijan's recommendation to sign and ratify the International Convention on the Protection of the Rights of all Migrant Workers and Members of their Families. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Cameroon.
Thank you, Madam President, and all distinguished American members and representatives. We would like to thank the Canadian delegate for their thorough cooperation and review of recommendations made by the delegations, and especially for considering the role of the delegation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Colombia. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. To begin with, we would like to thank the delegation of France for taking under consideration our recommendation regarding the situation of water and sanitation in Guadeloupe. We really appreciate that. And secondly, just like Azerbaijan, we would like to reiterate once again the importance that, in our view, ratifying this the International Convention on the Protection of Rights of all Migrant Workers and Members of their Families holds. We are aware that France does have replaced legislation that covers this issue, but we do believe that the ratification of this convention would complement your existing law. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Ms. Antonio, you have 1 minute to add remarks to the comments made by the reviewing states.
Thank you, Madam President, and fellow delegates of Azerbaijan, and Colombia. About the issue of the ratifying the covenant for migrant workers. There is an internal law in France that doesn't let us ratify this convention because employers and employee establish their relations, and so migrant workers cannot be migrant workers are not. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Are there any more comments? Seeing none, I now propose that the working group adopts the recommendation section of the report of the UPR France. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the recommendation section of the report is adopted. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Padova, Ambassador of Human Rights at the Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, for your final remarks. Your Excellency, you have 2 minutes. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. The delegation of France simply wishes to thank Madam President and the Secretariat for their work and efforts to promote the universal periodic review mechanism. Also, we highly appreciate the cooperation of all delegations of states, NGOs, and NHRIs. Your work has been and is valuable in order to develop and promote human rights. Creating international communication is our main purpose, and we look forward to pursuing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, to you and your delegation for your participation in this review. We will proceed with the adoption of the recommendation section of the report on the review of Nigeria. Once the representative of Azerbaijan acting as Troika is ready, please signalize by raising your flag. Thank you. We will now proceed with the adoption of the recommendation section of the report on the UPR Nigeria. The Troika for this report consists of the representative of Azerbaijan, Her Excellency Khaleda Burma, Chairperson of the Parliament of Azerbaijan, who on behalf of the Troika will deliver the working group report outcome. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes. I give you the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I will begin by starting how many recommendations the delegates of Nigeria received. And second, I will state which and how many recommendations were accepted and how many recommendations were noted. First of all, there are in total 9 recommendations received, and 7 of them have been accepted and 2 have been noticed to the delegation of the Nigeria. The first 2 were submitted by the delegation of Azerbaijan. Regards to continue to adopt measures promoting regards to the promotion of migrant workers convention. Second is regards the results-oriented measures to eliminate religious intolerance and hatred. Third and fourth were submitted by the delegation of Canada regards the child marriage, which is about modified section 29 4B of the Nigerian Constitution. And the fourth one is regards the Nigerian woman to continue to establish for the protection of the Nigerian woman in general. And the fourth was submitted by the delegation of Colombia regards to ensure the Children's Rights Act 2003. And the fourth, and the sixth and seventh were submitted by the delegation of France related to child marriage, to modify section 29 4B. And the seventh one is about the enact of violence against persons, Act number 2015 in the Nigerian states, which have not been adopted yet. And lastly, the 2 noted recommendations were submitted. The first one by delegation of Cameroon, which is releases the protesters and conduct a more transparent trail of the arrested SARs forces. And the second point was submitted by the delegation of Colombia regards the notice recommendations of the third UPR cycle regarding the regarding the death penalty. And that's all for today, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your presentation and for your work as Troika. Before adopting the recommendation section, I would like to recall that any comments on the recommendation section need to be made from the floor now. Delegates who want to make comments can raise their placards. Are there any comments? Delegate of Azerbaijan, you have 1 minute to give a comment.
Thank you, Madam President. As we would like to thank the delegation of Nigeria for accepting the recommendations of Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegation of Cameroon, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President, and all distinguished Troika members. We would like to thank the Nigerian delegates for their cooperation and review of recommendations. But since we are neighbors on the African continent, we face similar issues. The obstacles both of our nations face give the cause to make efforts to tackle these problems together in order to provide increased stability and a safer environment for both Nigerians and Cameroonians, and to strive jointly for a better future. In reference to our mutual struggle against terrorism, how does the state of Nigeria plan to combat terror in our shared borders?
Thank you, Your Excellency. Delegation of Colombia, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to start by thanking the delegation of Nigeria for accepting our first recommendation regarding the Child's Rights Act 2003. And we would like to reiterate once again the importance of the abolition of death penalty. Since the practical moratorium that is in effect since 2016 shows the willingness of Nigeria to abolish such practice, we believe that a total abolition of death penalty from your constitutional laws would be the definite action to take in order to ensure its full eradication. And we believe and we are sure that the delegation of Nigeria will continue its lobbying and activism also in their country to ensure such thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, Ms. Molchanova, you have 1 minute to add further remarks to the comments made by the delegations. You may have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, delegation of Colombia, for your comments concerning the death penalty. Nigeria will note the recommendation of the abolition of capital punishment. The issue is highly contested among citizens due to rising violence within the country. Severe punishment is seen as the most optional deterrent to individuals choosing to engage in more violence. Furthermore, it is enshrined in Section 33 of Nigeria's Constitution that at this time we must note the recommendation. Thank you, Cameroon. Regarding combating terror, we intend to continue our efforts to discourage discrimination and violence through legislation listed in our nation's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Are there any more comments? I see none. I now propose that the working group adopts the recommendation section of the report on the UPR of Nigeria. Are there any objections? I see none. The recommendation section of the report is adopted. I now give the floor to Her Excellency Ms. Evgenia Molchanova, permanent representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for her final comments. Your Excellency, you have 2 minutes. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to thank Madam President, the Vice President of Human Rights, Azerbaijan, for acting as Troika, and all the member states for their valuable time and recommendations. We value productive cooperation and interaction with our fellow states. The recommendations and concerns raised today are very important for the further progress of our state. We will continue to work diligently to improve the situation in Nigeria, improve the living standards of the population, specifically in regard to women and children. With great pleasure, we will continue to cooperate with international organizations, primarily with the United Nations Human Rights Council Universal Periodic Review, and look forward to presenting next year's report, which will reflect the positive reports put forth by this delegation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, you and to your delegation for your participation in this review. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with the adoption of the draft reports of Colombia, France, and Nigeria, we have completed the review of all states considered under this section of the working group. I would like to remind you that all the corresponding documents to the report adopted during this session will be reviewed, and I would like to recall that only what was shared in the room during the allotted speaking time will be reflected in the report of the working group. In this regard, I would like to thank the delegations for clearly identifying their recommendations as it greatly facilitated the work for the Troika and the Secretariat. The full participation of the states in the review, the high level of speakers and recommendations demonstrate a continued interest of the Padova Model UPR and highlights the importance of the process at the international level. As president, I found the constructive spirit and broad deliberations of today's session extremely rewarding. This continues to enhance the credibility of the process and ensure its success. Now, I would like to remind you about the lobbying session tomorrow at 5 p.m. at the Human Rights Center. Please avoid any delays. Thank you all very much for having supported the session. I wish you all a very nice evening, and I hereby close the session of the UPR Working Group. Goodbye, everybody.